I just want to confirm who I have on the phone for my listeners. I got the one and only DJ Hambone. Is it you, sir?
Yes, sir, it is. DJ Hambone in the flesh.
In the flesh, all the way from the US of A. Am I right in saying that?
Yep, Queens, baby.
Queens. That's awesome. I love the jungle spread its way. What's the scene like down there? Is it a big scene in Queens?
It's all in New York City. Queens is just a little bit of it. We all kind of converge, and primarily Brooklyn at the moment for parties and stuff. There's a few nights in Manhattan, but the bigger jams are usually all out in Brooklyn.
Awesome. All right, like I was saying to you earlier, I want to ask some fun questions before we get into the industry one. So with that, I want to ask you, what was your favorite movie as a kid growing up?
Oh man, that's a tough one. It was either Star Wars or Back to the Future. It's kind of a tie between them both. Still can't decide even to this day.
Well, you know what? They're both trilogies. Well, Star Wars goes further than that, but is there a favorite episode that you have? Like, is it For me, it's Back to the Future 2. That was my favorite Back to the Future. How about you?
Yeah, Back to the Future 2 for me, for sure. And, I mean, everybody obviously really likes Empire or Star Wars, but I kind of like Return of the Jedi because there's some real deal lightsaber battles, and obviously good comes out on top in that one.
Yeah, the good guy does win. Lucas was good at doing that. And I want to say, like, about Back to the Future, because that is actually one of my favorite movies. A lot of people don't realize the correlation that occurred with the recent election and the Chicago Cubs winning, where you had Back to the Future predicted that. You know, with
there was a lot of singularities between that and real life right now, I think.
Isn't it? Like, Biff was Trump, right? You know, like, it's not.
Yep.
And kudos to whoever wrote. I know Spielberg directed it, but I don't know who wrote that. What was the first concert you ever attended as a kid? Do you remember?
I think the first real concert I ever attended was the Up in Smoke tour, which had like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Nate Dogg, Warren G, Exhibit, and it was in Rochester. I think I was in 10th grade. It's pretty wild.
If it's the same tour that came here, because I saw that same show, the show started with a bank robbery. You watched the screen, and they were robbing a bank, and they make it down the street, and then they make it into the backstage, and then they all come running out onto the... Did they do the same kind of thing in Rochester?
Yeah. They played that skit or whatever, and then, like, I forget who came out, but... Yeah, they played that skit. It was pretty cool.
It was, man, and that was an amazing... Like, at the time, I thought after seeing it, like, oh, this is just something we're going to start seeing all the time now, but it went down as a legendary show because, no, you haven't seen a tour like that. And yeah, that's awesome that you got to see that. What was the first CD or album you ever purchased with your own money?
The first CD or album? I think it was Stone Temple Pilots, actually. Or
awesome.
I know the first cassette I purchased was Green Day, but I think the first CD I purchased was Stone Temple Pilots. Yeah.
Did you ever?
I forget the album name though. I didn't really continue listening to them so much as I grew up.
Not so much into the grunge. Did you ever get to see them live?
No, I mean, I'm not sure of their history, but I believe the lead singer passed away like a couple years after that album came out. I'm not sure.
Well, no, he is dead. Scott Weiland's dead, but the lead singer now is the guy from, I think he was on The Voice or something, and they actually just released a new album with their new lead singer, and I saw them last year, and one of the other photographers, I was actually there taking pictures, and one of the other photographers is like, hey man, did you like that Stone Temple Pilots cover band? And I knew what he meant. It was so like fabricated and not authentic. It was like the guy was trying his best to emulate Scott Weiland, and as a result it came off very cliche and fake, and let the guy die if you're going to take over and sing for him, but do your own shit,
Yeah, right. I think it's hard to continue a band without like the front man and the guy who's the voice of it and the face of it. Really, that's probably pretty difficult.
It is, but in this case, you have to hand it to I think it's the two of them are brothers, the guitar player and the drummer, I believe, and they wrote a lot of the music. So although Scott's gone, it's their music. And one band I'll say, and sticking with the grunge kind of community. Alice in Chains, their new lead singer, Richard Dawkins, or something. I forget his name. He looks like Lenny Kravitz, and not to come off sounding too racist here, but he looks like he's a black guy. He looks like a black guy, and then you hear him, and he sounds like a grunge singer, which is, if you know what Landley looked like, it's not Lenny Kravitz-like. So, but he's done a very good job taking over that spot. And if you get a chance, listen, they've released 2 albums with him, and he somewhat pays homage to the old singer, but has taken over in his own right. But anyways,
well, now with Spotify, I can easily check out new Alice in Chains, so I think I'll do that when I get a free moment.
You know what? It's what's this album? Something about God Put Dinosaurs Here or something is the first album. It's an amazing album. But yeah, if you get a chance, go on Spotify, check it out. And I'm telling you, buddy, the voice is unbelievable. He sounds just like him. Okay, I want to dive into some industry questions here. Can you tell me what your first rave experience was?
Yeah, my first rave was in October of 2002. It was in Syracuse. I'm from Syracuse originally. It was in Syracuse at this really large venue called Action Skate. It probably had like 5 rooms, and it was something that I had never experienced or even thought even existed in the farthest reaches of my imagination. It was like a completely different world, and right after that night, I was completely sucked in and enthralled with the whole thing. It was a game changer, a life changer, to say the least.
So you weren't into DJing at that point. This was your first experience with electronic music altogether.
No. Yeah, I had no experience with DJing, electronic music. Growing up, we always thought techno, quote unquote, was some mindless crap that didn't really have much creativity or like artistic touch to it. It was like in the mainstream, it was like looked down upon. So I didn't know what I was in for, or the realm of it all. I didn't know about the different genres. I didn't know anything. So I went into it completely fresh.
I got you. I did myself as well. What inspired you? Like from that day, how long afterwards did you start getting into DJing?
I bought my first batch of records in 2004. So less than 2 years, I started buying records. Obviously, it took a little while for me to mature as a DJ to start playing shows and stuff. But 2 years I was in. I mean, I dove head first into music and started researching it and figuring out what was what, figuring out what I liked, what I didn't like. Like it became the focus of my music. Like when I was that young, I mean, like I said, it was life changing, man.
I hear you, buddy. Who would you say that, like, who inspired you the most as a young DJ? Who were you listening to and trying to emulate the most?
Well, being from the States, we had Diesel Boy. I had a car with 2 12-inch subwoofers in it and a bandpass box. And immediately I was searching for like the bassiest music possible. And a friend of mine gave me a Diesel Boy 6-session CD. And I put that thing in my car, and I had never heard anything with bass like that before. And from then on, everything Diesel Boy touched, Project Human stuff, I was obsessed with. So, I mean, I guess you could say he was the main influence for me in the beginning. Obviously, once I dove in deeper and found more like jungle sounds, my taste kind of changed and evolved over time.
I get you. And something, you know what, when I met you, it was a couple weeks ago, you were performing back-to-back with DJ Brockout. How did you guys first meet?
Brockout and I met through mutual friends, I think around 2008. I met him, I played in Buffalo with J-Line, and I don't know if you know Dro, MC Dro, I think that's his name.
Yeah, I rap.
Yeah, and we all drove back. We played in Buffalo, and then we drove up to someone's house in, I think, Brampton, and hung out there. And then we went to a big party in Toronto with Rough Stuff, Fun Stuff, J-Line, and some other people. And I believe that's when I first met Brockout. But since then, he's played in New York. I've seen him up there, but that was the first time we've ever really gone back to back or anything like that.
Well, it was a killer set. You know what? And Brian, the guy who throws that party, he tends to record those sets. So if you can get your hands on it, man. I was there, excuse me, for the tail end of it, and you guys were going awesome back to back. It was a real jump up sound for people who aren't familiar with DJ Hambone or Brockout. I like to say you guys were playing a lot of stuff, but the jump up sound you guys had was bar none. And
yeah, I mean, every time Jerry Brockout dropped something big, I was like, oh shit, what the fuck do I play now? And I had to try to find something that would kick off bigger than what he played. So we were basically, I think we were trying to one up each other with the tunes as we were playing, and it turned into a real powerful set, I think.
That's awesome, man. And I got to talk because I know Jerry's a producer. Sorry, DJ Brockout is a producer. Do you indulge in production, or are you strictly focused on the wheels?
Focused on the wheels for now. Everyone kind of asks me that question whenever they meet me or figure out or see me play or whatever. I get asked that question usually a couple times a night after I play, and it's just something that I haven't really had time for. I mean, I work a pretty rigorous 9 to 5. So when I get home from work, after staring at the computer for half the day, the last thing I want to do is stare at the computer more. I mean, I know it sounds like an excuse or whatever, but that's kind of just where it stands right now. I mean, I have helped some of my friends work on tunes a little bit here and there, and I understand the majority of the softwares and VSTs they're using, but I just haven't had the time really or the drive to dedicate time to it.
I can empathize with that 100%. I have sounds in my head that I'll drop at a studio. I'll just go in and hum them because I can't deal with the monotony of production. Anyone who doesn't know what a sequencing file looks like it's the sounds you hear are so minute on a scale of production. When you look at the recording screen and you see how much they have to dive into each sample and manipulate and structure just to get the sound that we eventually hear as music. It's so I'd rather just learn the drums and the guitar and to sit there and it's unbelievable the amount of patience though, and like you say, someone who spends 9 hours on a computer and then spends another 8 making a song, kudos to you, bud.
Yeah, it's incredibly complex, and I mean you can take any sample and if you put enough work into it, you can turn it into any type of sound you ever wanted. It's kind of crazy the possibilities that you have in terms of production. And yeah, you're right. What we hear as a finished tune takes an incredible amount of work. And I mean, I feel like that's why a lot of times producers have their own sounds because they've created samples or they've created instruments or whatever that they like to go back to and use on other tunes because it saves them an incredible amount of time from starting from scratch every time. You know what I mean?
Oh hell yeah! I remember my buddy had a virus system. And I interviewed him a few months ago, and he says to me on the phone, he's like, "I've been working on this sample for 16 hours. You want to hear it?" I'm like, "Sure." So he plays it for me, and I swear to God, it goes, "Womp womp womp womp." That's it. And he's like, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hold on, I'm gonna play it again. Hold on." Womp womp womp. He's like, "Did you hear it?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, 16 fucking hours. I'm like, yeah, see, that's what I mean. And that's one noise in this long scale of a song he's making, right? I don't think you're far-fetched in saying that gets stored somewhere and then reused after you spend that much fucking time on it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I don't blame him, and honestly, I don't blame you. And there's a lot of DJs that have found success, especially partnering beside someone like Brockout, who he's a producer and he needs people to play his music, and I'm sure he gives you tracks that nobody else has. And
for sure.
Yeah, man, that's the ones that jump out to me the most are guys like Brocky, guys that didn't necessarily make their way through the scene by producing, but being amazing DJs. Who's that?
Kenny Ken.
Well, Kenny Ken. The thing is about Kenny has produced. He,
but not making his name from strictly producing or anything. I feel like Kenny Ken and Brocky are in the same category. Brocky's worked with Ed Solo on tons of tunes. He might not necessarily be the engineer. I spoke to Kenny a little bit about that at dinner, and Kenny said that he grabs a producer that is up and coming or already has some clout, and he kind of guides them and works with them on tunes, and then and then he has a batch of exclusive tunes that no one else has. You know, I think Brocky's pretty similar in that sense.
Well, and you know what? And thank you for sharing that. I think that there's something to be said about when I first got in the scene. One of the things that we were promoting was that everybody was going to the record store, buying UK records, coming to the club and spinning them in a different order. And it was like, anyone could fucking mix the two records that the next guy has. When are we going to start producing? Yet, now we've gone so far over to the other side where, like you say, 2 or 3 times a night you're asked, do you produce? Where it doesn't necessarily matter. If a DJ can be an amazing DJ, he can help the producer. Not every DJ has to be a producer as well. And yeah, and as a result, we do get some shitty DJs because they're amazing producers, but they have to spin just to promote their own shit. And it's like, no, just give it to somebody who knows what they're doing. Yeah, so to you, if you're saying you're not doing it yet, I don't think you have to. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. You're mashing up.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like Noisia or even Pendulum, like they have engineers in their team. And then they have DJs in their team, you know? They're not all the best DJs and they're not all the best engineers. So it's like the engineers in the lab making the tunes and the DJs out on tour spinning those tunes.
Yeah, and to be honest, what I know of, I think, honestly, I'm speaking out my arse a little here because it's so long ago. But Pendulum, I'm pretty sure, okay, it was 3 guys, none of them knew anything. And then somebody had to teach one of them named Al Hornet how to spin so he could go out to the clubs.
Yeah, well, Hornet's the DJ.
Right. Okay. So I'm not speaking too much. He didn't know how to sing.
No,
is he from Australia? Is he from Australia? Are they from Australia?
Yeah, he's Australian. Yeah.
Okay. And I remember the story. I remember they're like, "Yeah, he didn't know a fucking thing, mate." And I was like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah, we had to teach him how to spin so he could tour." No disrespect, Pendulum, amazing group, and you have some validity in that statement of these guys who form. They find continuity, I guess, amongst each other. Like, hey, I produce. I'm an amazing DJ. I'm good at marketing. I'm a good people person. Whatever it is. Like, I can even say myself with DCS 905, I was the gregarious MC guy who got us kind of a social presence. The guys that were making the music were amazing artists, but not necessarily the most social acolytes. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go out and flyer and hand out shit outside the party, and they'd stay behind the scenes and keep making amazing music. So, yeah, there's some validity in, like I say, finding a group of people. And you and Brock out was an amazing combo. I hope you guys continue to work together because...
Yeah, I mean, we've heard really good things about that. And obviously, Brock and I talk on the side. I do a night down here, and... I want to bring the guys from Peaceful Entertainment and maybe Brock out as well for parties in the coming year.
That would be great. Are you at all associated with
that?
Are you associated with the Sound Solution guys?
I know Rusty or Beretta. I know Beretta. Yeah. He's a homie. He moved to Amsterdam though, so I don't think he's going to be doing much stuff on this side of the pond.
I didn't realize that. I thought he was still. So he's out in Amsterdam now, is he? Okay.
Well, I think just the Netherlands in general. I think he's like 2 hours away from Amsterdam or something like that.
Well, still, he's nowhere near Queens.
Oh yeah, no.
All right, I just got a couple more questions for you, some fun ones. Okay, so you're familiar with Mount Rushmore, of course, right?
Of course.
Okay, so if you had to create a Mount Rushmore for drum and bass music, who would your 4 faces be?
Oh shit. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously Andy C keeps winning best DJ. I think he just won it yesterday for I don't even know, like the 25th time or something like that. So Andy C's got to be on there because he's the biggest and the longest standing like best DJ. I mean, it's not even my opinion. I think it's everyone's opinion. So he'd have to be on there. I think you'd have to put Stevie Hyper D on there for really bringing MCing to the forefront and kind of giving everyone a style that everyone has kind of, I wouldn't say imitated, but like taken in and used to their own likings throughout the years. So Andy C, Stevie Hyper D. This is kind of tough because there's so many big dudes, you know?
Well, if I could just interrupt for a second, the first 2 you said are 2 of the 4 that I put. So I want to see if you end up putting the same 4 faces I did. Please keep going.
Okay. Let's see here. I mean, I don't know how people feel about this, but I would probably have to put Dillinger on there.
Oh, yeah. choice.
I mean, his sound kind of changed the game back in the day. From my understanding, that was a little bit like before my time in drum and bass when him and Lemon D were really making tunes.
Well, not just that. The Capone. The last guest I had on the show, I can say that, was Carl from Hard Leaders, and they did a lot of work with Capone because of licensing rights to the name Dillinger. They had to change his name, and you talk about revolutionary sound. Capone, wow, like the tunes they came up with. There's a guy who, you remember we were just talking about people who reuse samples to the point where you can identify their music. It's like when you said that, I thought of Zinc right away. Zinc's music's very bubbly, the bingo.
Zinc, yeah.
But Dillinger wasn't like that, in my opinion. Every sample was unique and it was revolutionary. It made people want to copy what he was doing. So you almost have to do a two-face with the same face, where you got Dillinger and Capone.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we could put a little Baby Hydra on there with Dillinger and Lemon D.
There you go. You could do that. All right, one last face.
And then, there's just so many, I would say Kenny, I would say Brocky, but I honestly think that Nicky Blackmarket deserves to be on there because he's been around since the beginning, and he's DJ's DJ, and he owned Black Market Records. Obviously, RIP, it closed, I think, 2 years ago or something like that, but he was dispensing drum and bass to the UK in the early 90s and didn't stop until 2016 or whatever. So he's pushed drum and bass and jungle since the beginning. So I think he deserves to be on Mount Rushmore of drum and bass jungle.
I love your four answers. What I did, I'll just say what my answers were. They were the telepathy. So I had Andy C and Stevie, but I also put Skibba and Det. But as an MC myself, I'm a little biased. So I like your four answers. Okay. I think they're great.
I love Skibba. I love Det. Skibba's my favorite MC of all time. I think he's the most entertaining. Whether or not you think his flows are tired, he is the most original. He kind of pioneered a sound that was in the vein of CD Hyper D, and then everyone started copying Skibba too. So he's definitely an honorable mention for that, for sure.
Well, in my honest opinion, I can have a 2-hour conversation about Skibba D if I wanted to. The guy is an amazing MC, an amazing artist. He's an influencer, and I believe he's capable of doing more than what people hear on the tapes these days. He's just, in my opinion, not inspired to. When you hear the guy off the record, like in the studio or just sitting in the backseat of a car writing bars, he's got music spewing out of him. And what he does on the rave stage is what he's been hired to do. And I don't think it would... it's the same thing with Det. These guys... Off of the jungle scene, these guys are artists, and their lyrics are fucking amazing, but they don't need to go out there and spit new bars all the time. So if they're going to, I think they'll use other avenues.
Let me tell you a little something about Skibbity that will probably make you like him even more. So I went to Ibiza in 2015 for this festival that Mickey Finn and Darren J do called Sunbeats. And Skibbity was on the bill for the first night, and he's MCing. He gets down, and Fun gets up there and starts MCing. And I go over to Skibbity. I go, Skibba, I know that there's a whole bunch of drama or whatever, but can you get up there and do some Uncontrollables bars with Fun? And he's like, yeah, mate, got you. And 5 minutes later, he's up on stage. Him and Fun are going back to back doing Uncontrollables bars. Yeah. I might be saying too much because I don't really know the whole story, but I don't think they get along anymore.
Oh, they get.
So that was really like cool for me to see and request, and the fact that he entertained my idea and went up there and did it and put whatever differences they had beside to entertain me even more. It just kind of blew my mind.
Just to interrupt for a second, from what I know of what fell out there, it had nothing to do with Skibba and Fun. It was the DJ, which I won't name him, but. They were getting paid, and somebody was cutting from the top, and it wasn't any of the MCs. But that little group of guys, the uncontrollable, they didn't fall apart because of a falling out between Funsta and Skibba. There's no bad blood.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then he does that, blows my mind, and then we continue raving and partying or whatever. I don't know, probably half an hour later, I look over. Guess who's raving right next to me? Skibbity.
Nice.
What what are you doing? She's like, fucking partying, bro. And he sat there and partied with us for the next 2.5 hours. He's done emceeing. He doesn't have to be there. He's paid already. And he enjoyed the music, danced with us, and kept partying right beside us. And that right there just showed me that he really does love it. He loves the music. He loves the culture. He loves the rave. He loves all that shit. And it just made him really stand out to me.
I hear you, man.
You know?
I've seen that with a few artists, and it makes you smile because I don't love the music the way they do. Like, I'm serious, man. The way that they must to tour and do it every night. And then, like you say, what you saw that night was one night. It's not like he did that and then he went home and rested for 3 months. He's out there all the time doing that. He loves this.
All the time. So, he probably left Ibiza and went to another festival or another night and emceed again and again and again and again. And it's just not.
Hold on, Mr. Hambone. You were just here. You were just in our lovely country. Don't you? After a few days, can you not just wait to get back to your own bed? Like, don't you get sick and tired of not being in your own comfortable surroundings?
That's affirmative.
Yeah.
And, there you go. I went to Amsterdam for Innovation in the Dam the weekend before I met you, and then I believe I can't remember. Oh, I was in Vegas for Halloween for the band Fish.
No, cool.
So I was kind of.
Hold on. We gotta stop for a second. Let's talk about Fish for a moment. How was that? Was that an interesting experience? Was the crowd?
That was my third Fish Vegas run. The time before this one, I took my mother. She had a great time. And I can say that I'm a seasoned Fish Vegas veteran now, and it's fantastic. It's the ideal city for that type of scenario, to be honest with you.
That's awesome, man. Sorry to interrupt you, though, so go on, please.
Okay. So I kind of had a pretty hectic end of October, November, early December, and I finally had a weekend to myself last weekend, and just resting all weekend, sleeping in my bed all weekend was phenomenal.
That's what I mean, man. I personally, after a few hours out, I can't wait to get back to my house, so I can't imagine days.
I mean, there's something to be said about sleeping on the weekends and sleeping during the week, because obviously I'm a 9 to 5, I'm sleeping here during the week. Probably not getting enough sleep every night, but on the weekends when I really need to be hitting the sack hard and I'm somewhere else, it does get a little tiring, you know.
Well, yeah, and you're, from what I can see, the picture I'm using of you gives no justice. People who haven't met DJ Hambone, he's a pretty athletic-looking dude. So you need your beauty rest, right? You need, I'm sure.
Yeah, big guys get tired quicker, you know? You get metabolism going on.
I bet. All right, final question, my infamous vault question. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate our rave culture, what would those 5 items be?
Oh, fuck. I mean... Oh, jeez.
Okay, hold on. I'll give you some premise, okay? So, in 25,000 years, someone's going to dig up this vault, and we're going to want them to know exactly what the rave was. People have put entire nightclubs into the vault. You can put it whatever you want. You can put people...
wow.
Yeah, whatever, man. Like, I'll pass you horns, tapes, your favorite flyer, whatever the hell it is, okay?
Okay, so... I guess I would put a system in there, right? A system complete with CDJs and turntables and a mixer. So like a whole setup to blast the aliens or whatever the hell finds the time capsule or whatever, right?
Okay.
Obviously, a record collection and MP3 collection to go along with it. So I guess that's 2 things, right? I mean, strictly drum and bass and jungle. No, I mean, this is my time capsule here, so that's what I'm saying.
No problem.
I don't know how PG this podcast is or whatever, but I would have to put some pure MDMA in there.
Oh, no, that's fine. You know, it's funny you bring that up. I said this to Brocco. He was the other person who brought that up. Not too many people ask me that, and I've said a couple F-bombs, I think, throughout this, but people ain't listening to me. So until I have, millions of listeners, you can say whatever the fuck you want on my podcast. On average, I get 400 to 500. The most I've ever had was 17,000 hits. But because Facebook isn't paying attention to my videos, trust me, buddy, you can put all the MDMA you want in that vault and nobody's going to care.
All right, so we got a system with a setup. We got a music collection.
Mm-hmm.
We got the MDMA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well ganja keeps for 25,000 years, but I'd like to throw some reefer in there.
Okay.
And the fifth, let's see here. I guess a collection of rave flyers, like you mentioned.
Is there one that stands out? Is there one that you remember the most, like your favorite rave flyer?
My favorite rave flyer, it would have to be probably WEMF 2004. Right, that was probably my favorite rave flyer of all time. Or the WEMF where my name was on it in 2008.
Good for you, buddy. The WEMF 2004, right when you say it, it pops in my head as a black and orange flyer. Like a black background and orange.
I think it's like yellow and orange, maybe? There might be black on it, yeah, I think. I don't know.
You do a lot of them in my head, so I could be wrong. Because it's an amalgamation in my mind. You know?
Yeah, I mean, all those WEMFs blur together a little bit, so I don't blame you.
But no, good for you for getting your name on a WEMF flyer. I know that's a big, a check mark in an artist's career, and I know it's a good thing to look back on. Do you have a memento? Do you have the flyer still, so you can always have that?
Yeah. At my mom's in Syracuse, I have all the flyers from back then and stuff. So I'm sure there's a few floating around in there. I used to promote for Destiny too as like a Northeast regional promoter. So they used to send me all their flyers and everything. So I have all their flyers from when I started doing that.
Can I share a funny WEMF story with you?
Of course, I love WEMF stories.
I'll share a funny story. I've never shared this story with my listeners, so hopefully they like this one too. Rest in peace, Nikki Burleton. Nikki Sunglasses, a girl I met at WEMF years back. And I was actually with Dro. You brought up Dro earlier in this discussion. So Dro and I met these girls, Kim and Nikki, and I decided to go to town with these two girls. Dro came with us. We all went to town, that's right, and to pick up beer. And when we were driving back to the WEMF, Nikki and I were in the back seat, and Nikki said, "Hey, do you want to go swimming in the lake?" And I was like, "Sure." So she taps Kim on the front, "Hey, pull over, we're going to go swimming." So Nikki and I disrobe, like I get into my boxer shorts, she gets into her bra and underwear, and we go swimming in the water. And while we're swimming in the water, I cut myself on a rock. So I'm like, I'm bleeding, let's go back to the car and get our shit, like I need to get a bandage, And as we walk back to the road, the car's gone. So
what?
Yeah, they fucking took off. They went back to fucking WEMF without us, and not realizing our clothes were in the car. So
oh man,
yeah. So Nikki and I, and you've met me, I'm ginger, man. In the beating sun, I'm walking down the side of this highway in my underwear. Okay, in my underwear, and cars are driving by, just flying by us, right? Eventually, a car that was actually at WEMF had seen us walking, like these people were in the parking lot and could see down the road, so they decided to come down and pick us up. So we get in their car, and I'll never forget this. I get in the back seat of the car, and the guy sitting there is like, "Yo, man, you got any pills?" And I'm sitting there in my underwear. I'm like, "Nah, I ain't got no pills." Like, what the fuck? Where would I have them?
Where am I gonna put them, bro?
Yeah, what the fuck? Stupid question. But this kid's high as a kite, right? So they end up getting us back to WEMF. Now, this is where it gets really funny, because my lanyard, my pass and shit was all in the car. So I don't have anything, no credentials to get into the party. So I'm telling the people at the gate, like, "Go get Jesse, he knows who I am." And they're like, "Nah, just go away." And I'm like, "Listen, I didn't walk from Toronto like this." Like, it's one of two things. Either I was already inside, and this story I'm telling you is true, in that case, let me in. Or I'm walked from Toronto like this, and in that case, you should let me in anyways, because that's like a 7-hour walk, and I did it in my boxers. Just let me in the party. Just let me in the party! And they wouldn't. So what they came to the agreement was to let Nikki in. They said, "Look, we'll let her in, and if what you say is true, she can go to the car, get your stuff, bring it back to you." So she goes into the party, dude, never comes back. So,
oh, man.
Yeah, so I'm standing there for like 2 more hours, and eventually Jesse does come up. He comes up on a little fucking golf cart, and he sees me, and he's like, "Yo, what happened?" And I start to tell him the story, and he's like, "Just go inside, man. Just get in." And so he pushes security away, like, let the guy in, So I get inside, but now here I am in Wemph in my underwear. And people somewhat know me. I'm no celebrity, but there's some people who know me. And they're like, hey, it's Vivid. I'm like, hey. They're like, yo, why are you in your underwear? I'm like, it's just this thing to do, man. Like, I don't want to get into it, right? So somebody eventually loaned me their pants. Let me say this. When I would try to go back to where we were parked, the car wasn't there. It was a new car that had parked in that spot. So I start walking around in Wemph looking for where these girls are because my shit's in their car. And eventually somebody loaned me a pair of pants. Somebody loaned me a pair of shoes. And eventually I found the car. And I sat up on the hood of the car and waited. And like it took like 8 hours for these girls to return. And when they returned, they were high as a kite. They didn't even realize what they had done. So I wasn't going to, start a fight or anything. I was like, hey, my shit's in your car. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Here, let me get it for you. And that was it. I was trying to bone this girl. I wasn't going to start yelling at her, right? So that was, sorry. That's my Wemph story. Thank you for
That's classic. What year was that?
That would have been in 2006, I think. It was in Welland. When was Wemph in Welland?
2007.
Okay, so it was 2007. That's when.
Yeah.
I have plenty of Wemph stories to share, but that is one of them. And with that
Next time I'm up there, we could sit down and share Wemph stories.
We could do it for hours. I'm sure it'll be great.
I think I made it to like 8 or 9 of those. I think I'm not sure. It's kind of crazy.
I remember my 10th Wemph, and then so I think I went to 12 altogether. I think.
Holy shit!
But that's because it was here, and it's what I grew up on. It was one of my first things to go to, and like I said, and it becomes an amalgamation. Like when you start to talk about what happened at Wemph, and you try and remember the year, it's like, well, that was where this was, and like one I remember, I'll never forget this story about Madawaska. I was performing at like 6:30 in the morning, and I remember going up on the stage and looking into the crowd, and people had been doing those whippets all night because as the sun came up, it hit the little canisters, and I remember seeing the glistening of the sun off of all the little fucking whippet cans. And I remember looking into the crowd thinking, how fucked up are the mosquitoes? Like if they're sucking the blood of these guys, you got some fucked up mosquitoes around here, man.
Yeah, right?
A little ready for the mosquitoes. But
mosquitoes are loving it.
I'll never forget though, like looking up at the sky, and there was an escarpment that reached the cloud level, and you could see the pinks and the blues coming from the sunrise. And I wasn't high, but it looked beautiful, and I was like, I wonder what it looks like to them though, because that's trippy as hell. And that's Wemph, man. Wemph was always a fun experience and a great story to tell. But yeah, here, I'm going to sign off for I want to talk to you, so stay on the phone with me, but I'm going to sign off to my listeners if that's okay with you, okay?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, that was him, DJ Hambone. Guys, as always, thanks for tuning in. I'll have links down below if you want to follow this guy, New York Junglist. So,
New York Junglist.
There it is.
And 2K Deep NYC, that's my little production company I started with a few friends in the last year or so. We had a 2K Deep in Vermont while I was up there, and my boys continued that after I left. And my friends gave me the go-ahead to start my own down here. And we started that in the early stages of 2018. So look for us in Brooklyn in 2019.
There it is. And like I say, links will be down below. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, peace out.